All right, it is now 9:30 p.m. Eastern, which means that the stock market has been closed for a few hours. We are roughly 12 hours away from the stock market reopening. So I wanted to take you through my process of building a watch list and seeing what I expect with these stocks. Because again, I know it's a surprise, but I don't just look at these stocks as potential buys or potential shorts. It's all about key support, key resistance levels, odds, risk, and all the indicators we've been talking about. So here is the watch list, literally, that I send to subscribers of my newsletters every single night. I have a nice little summary here of just some of the basic rules. Today was a $45,000 profit day. I just add up basically what people tell me in the chat room and on various social networks what they've made. I made around 700 this morning, as you saw. My accounts now, I started the year with 12,000 and I'm at roughly 77,000 after 7 months now. Don't be impressed or not impressed with that number. I trade in order to teach. I actually have to write a blog post later tonight about how I'm going to be donating all of my trading profits to charity. They don't matter, whether I make 50,000 or 100,000 or 200,000. It's such small amounts of money compared to what I could be trading with. But I want to show you how to grow a small account. So I'm proud to trade with a small account, and I'm, very proud to be able to donate it. I'm building several schools in Laos and Cambodia. I've worked with Make-A-Wish and Boys and Girls Club and several other charities here in America, and I'm just getting into charity, and I love it. So just so you understand, I know there are some people out there who think like, oh, you're so rich, why don't you trade with a big account? Because it's not useful for my students. I want you guys to see how to grow a small account from scratch. So I started the year with 12,000. I've grown it pretty nicely, and I saw an article tonight, Business Insider said this is like one of the most boring stock markets ever. And I'm just like, oh my God, you guys are looking at the wrong stuff, because right now the market is on fire, or at least my market niche is on fire. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. But here, I just started writing this watch list on this spreadsheet that we went over earlier today. I wrote down some of these stocks that I'm watching, and I've grouped them together as I usually do. I don't look at each stock as an individual type of company. I look at it as a potential play, as a pattern. And patterns are very similar. So GBR, EVOK, DELT, and EBIO are my 4 most likely buys. I'm actually long DELT overnight, which I'll explain in a second. SPHS, MDGS, FATE, BLDP, XCOM, and CDTI. These are spikers and recent spikers, but none of them have perfect price action or the right catalysts. GRPN, PEIX, and ALIM. These are 3 earnings winners, and I'm always looking at recent earnings winners, although as all 3 of them have proven, they're uptrending, but they're choppy, and they're really not that exciting. And then we have SPU, OPTT, KONE, TOPS, which are the 4 low float plays that I've been running, and I actually did very well on SPU. This was my play today. Remember, it was ranked in 83. As it turned out, I should have held a little longer. It went up, I believe, $2.50 a share, actually, from my buy alert. We'll go over that in a second as we get through all of this. But first, let me go with this first group, GBR, EVOK, DELT, EBIO. How did I get this group together? Well, very simple. 3 of them are the 3 biggest percent gainers on the day. I love big percent gainers. They are volatile stocks. The number one indicator that I use for the next day is watching what was a big mover today or yesterday, but the further back you go, or, 2 days ago or 3 days ago, but the further back you go, the less reliable of an indicator it is. I want the stock to be in play, and I want a lot of momentum. EVOK would be tough for me to play just because the volume is 29 million. And when it gets up that high, 29, 39, 59 million, it is so choppy. You can clearly see that it's uptrending, but I mean, this little downtrend here at 11 a.m. from 305 down to 275. I mean, this little drop right here would have gotten me out. I don't risk losing 10% on my money intraday. So it's very tough for me to trade hugely liquid stocks like that. But GBR, I definitely considered. I actually almost went long this, near the close. Maybe I probably should have. I'd be up. This is a nice after hours winner. But I'm long DELT because it's lower risk. It had that big spike from the 1s to the 3s. This is all today, okay? Pretty crazy. And it held its gains. You can see here the midday low was 2-ish. Let me turn off this alert. The alert was just saying that it was a big percent gainer. But it held 2 here, and then it held 2 solidly, right in the afternoon. And that led me to believe, 2 is support. If it cracks 2, I'm out. But I got in, what was my exact entry? I think it was 210, 211, 212-ish. So I have roughly 10 cents a share of risk. I could be absolutely wrong on this stock tomorrow, and we'll see. I'll film another video at the market open tomorrow, or pre-market, or I don't know exactly what time. But tomorrow we'll film a follow-up so you can see if I'm right. Tonight we're going to make some assumptions and guesses and estimates. And I am perfectly willing to admit I could be wrong on any play. But right now the stock is in the 220s, 230s. It's up a little after hours. Nothing huge, but what really matters is can it spike at the market open? I'm not so concerned with, a few hundred shares traded after hours. I would have preferred it to have, solid after hours price action like GBR, which just keeps uptrending. But again, these aren't the biggest orders either. So I wouldn't be too sure of anything after hours. So let's get to the watch list for a second. GBR, EVOK, DELT, and EBIO are the 4 biggest percent gainers in the market, aside from, aside from which was the laggard? Oh, EBIO. Aside from EBIO, which was only up 10% on the day, but is threatening more spiking. I am long DELT overnight because it was the single biggest percent gainer on the day today. It's a low floater, low market cap stock that reminds me of Tops before it nearly doubled on day 2 of its run-up. I was long from 228, selling in the 250s and at 3-ish. The next day, an hour later, it went to the 4s, so I underestimated it. I highly doubt DELT will go full-on supernova tomorrow to the, what is DELT at? It's in the 2s. I like these stocks in the 2s. What was the high? 315. To the 4s, but I'm in on a big dip just above 2, and I would love to see it test today's highs of 315, or even get close to that at all. GBR is the best spiker after hours, and EVOK is just too choppy for me. But I'm watching them all. So let's just do a quick little thing here. I'm going to get rid of EVOK because it scored the lowest this morning. It's too choppy. I'm not going to trade EVOK. I can pretty much guarantee you that. Although I know a lot of my students did and they banked on it. You just have to know what you're good at and what you're not good at. Let's analyze DELT for a second. Let me zero this out. All right, so the pattern in price on DELT. Well, intraday is good. Let's analyze it some more. Over 10 days. I mean, this is the spiking and it's holding the pattern. That's a good chart. It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good. 1 year, I mean, it had this spike before and it didn't really do anything. I mean, it was up a little on day 2. As you can see here, it closed from this candle at like 133, and the next day it did get up to 170, but it finished lower. So I would expect this actually to spike tomorrow a little bit and maybe finish unchanged or even finish down on the day. I'm not necessarily expecting it to go to the 3s or the 4s, although in this market it could. I mean, look at the volume. The float is only 3 million shares, so it traded double its float today. If it can get big volume tomorrow, I think it can, it has a chance at really spiking. But based on this recent spike, it was up a little on day 2, but it ultimately finished down. So I have to take all of that into account. I want to be as accurate or, as meticulous as possible. You can't really be accurate because this is all just a guess. And before this spiking, I mean, there's hardly any interest whatsoever. But this is true of a lot of low float stocks. Let me pull up Tops for a second. I'll replace. So Tops was doing nothing for a little while, and then it too, really spiked. Turn off these things. I was buying it. It had already spiked. I like buying, initial spikes, and I was buying it. Where was it? Somewhere in here, just before the market closed, in here in the 220s. And it was up a little and it was downtrending a little pre-market, and then right at the open, bam, all the way to 4. So I don't know if this is going to happen, but I'm in the right ballpark. So pattern and price, I'll give this a 16. Risk reward on DELT, well, this is the beautiful thing about dip buying, and the same thing with TOPS. There was support just below my TOPS buy. There's support just below my DELT. If for some reason it doesn't go up tomorrow, which very well could happen, I get out and I'm exiting at 205, 2-ish, maybe even 195. So at worst, I'm going to lose, 10 to 15 cents a share. But if it retests $3 a share, excuse me, then that's roughly 90 cents a share of upside. So 10 cents a share of downside, 90 cents a share of upside. And that's just judging based on former resistance and former support. I don't know if it's going to crack support. I don't know if it's going to crack resistance. But just looking at the chart, we have 9-to-1 risk reward. So that's very good. So I'm going to give that a 20. Ease of entry and exit, it traded 7 million shares. I have a few thousand shares. I can get out pretty easily, but it does have a little bit of a spread. So it's not quite a 10 on the ease of entry or exit, which is okay. The stocks that have penny spreads like Groupon, as we saw, they don't really move that much. So I'll vote this a 7. Past performance history of spiking. Again, it spiked recently, but it did not hold the spike on day 2. But I don't need it to hold the spike tomorrow. All I want is a little spike. So I'll give this a 7 also. Personal schedule, again, tomorrow I can trade, and I'm aiming for, when I say at what time is it, what time is the focus of my trade? And I'm aiming for a morning spike, which is, the best, time to trade right now, I think. That's where most of these spikes are happening. That's where my focus is. So I'll give this a 20 because that's right exactly what's happening. The reason catalyst, it has no catalyst. It's just a low float play. So I'll give this one a 5 out of 10. In market environment, it's the perfect environment for this. So there we go. It's an 85 overnight, and that is why it is my position. Out of all of them, and I can analyze all of them. Let's do EVOK. Why not? What else we got to do? Sleep? Ah! Actually, I would like to sleep. I'm just going to analyze EVOK really quickly just to show you what I don't like about it, because this is the number 2% gainer on the day. And it's uptrending. So 2 days looks fine. 1 month. Remember, it has that nasty bad sushi drop. I don't like this pattern, so it's coming back, but it's going to face resistance on every little, spike upwards. It could spike more, but I really hate this pattern. So let me first zero it out. Be sure to zero everything out when you plug in a ticker, and we'll have this kind of a little table for you guys to insert your own numbers. Remember, I'm just introducing this for the first time right now. I guarantee you within a year, we're going to have a ton of features so that you can more easily analyze this. All right, so pattern and price is good today because it's uptrending and it's up after hours, but it has that bad sushi example. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 20. Risk reward, when you have that big bad news like that, you could have more big bad news. I don't really care about what the price action is now because the risk of bad news is there. And frankly, it's up because, what did we say? We saw that they got some FDA clearance on their name of their drug, which is hardly any, positive news at all. And then they got some new investors, probably just because it's kind of like a garage sale. It's kind of risky, just because of how bad of a situation it is. New investors help, but what if they go bankrupt? What if more bad news is on the horizon? I'm going to vote this a 5 on risk reward. Ease of entry and exit, at least this has everything going for it. It's a 10. Past performance history of spiking. Oh, bad sushi. I hope that bad sushi example stuck in your head. I mean, it did spike in anticipation of the FDA news. See, look at this report of unscheduled material event. Let's see what the news was. Announced results of their phase 3 trial, and it was not good. It was not good, as you can see from how it reacted to that news, from 10 down to 1 or 2. I'm going to get rid of that news, but that's bad. At least it did spike in anticipation of it. And then this is another reason why you don't want to guess FDA news ahead of time, because everyone's buying it, everyone's all excited, and, just death. Don't guess earnings, don't guess FDA, don't guess anything. Doesn't really have a history of spiking or holding its spikes. You see a spike here, failed, spike here, failed, spike here, failed, and then big spike here and big fail. So we're going to knock this down. This has a pretty bad history. At what time is it? Personal schedule. My schedule is fine. This could be a morning spiker. So, I got to give this a 15. Yeah. I mean, it is the right time, but I don't think it has the right, anything to really morning spike. The reason catalyst is a 1. There is no reason. Oh, no, I mean, you do have new investors. I'll give them that. I got to up it to a 3. I'm sorry I'm so negative. In market environment, hey, if any market is going to work for this kind of a play, this is it. So I'll give it an 8. So it's a 51. And that's, pretty much kind of what I expected. These stocks in the 50s, and I don't know what these numbers are going to be ahead of time. I don't plan this stuff very well, okay? I just go with it, and I expect my indicators to be pretty accurate. So you can tell the difference between EVOK and DELT, mainly with the pattern and the price, the risk reward. The risk reward is really a big one here because I just don't know what's going to happen when you have a company that issues such bad news out of the blue. They could do it again. And even though the odds of that happening aren't great, it could happen. You know, the odds of EVOK announcing something really negative are much greater than DELT announcing something negative. But I mean, any of these stocks can announce anything negative, but you have some kinds of clues. So that's the difference here, and that's why I'm long DELT and not EVOK. Let me see. Let me write this down into the watch list because we're doing a watch list here. I'm watching them all. Let's get on to the next group. That's probably the best and the worst from the group. GBR is probably in between. And what was the other one? EBIO, it's really not volatile enough. I was long it the other day. I probably have a little personal vengeance, feeling guilty that I missed out on the 50% spike. But when I was long that day, if you guys remember it, not those of you watching the DVD, but those of you who have my newsletter subscriptions, if you remember, I was long. I was all ready to be long overnight. And then there was a really strange seller like 5 minutes before the market closed that took it down like 25 cents a share. And that freaked me out. I get freaked out pretty easily. And as it turned out, I was being overprotective. All right, let's get to this list. Before I get to these wannabe spikers, I'm going to put them at the bottom of the watch list because they don't follow exactly my patterns. Earnings winners do. So let's talk about GRPN, PEIX, and ALIM, our three earnings winners. And they are all potential buys. I bought GRPN on the multi-month breakout of 5 this morning, only to be stopped dead in its tracks. And I was fortunate enough to get out roughly break even. PEIX's morning spike to the mid 7s absolutely failed, but at least it held onto multi-month breakout of 660. Hold on to its multi-month. Did it hold on all day? I didn't even check PEIX late day. I don't even have it on my watch list because it was just so boring. Oh, no, I do have it here. Yeah, so it held 660. Remember, we were talking about 660 was going to be important. It held it, but then you know what? It tops here at 7. It tops here at 690. Now it kind of looks like it tops here at 680. I don't like this creating lower highs. So PEIX's morning spike to the mid 7s absolutely failed, but at least it held on to its multi-month breakout of 660, barely, with lower highs throughout the day. Not very encouraging. ALIM, I was buying in the 150s, what was it, yesterday? 2 days ago. And got out due to weird big sellers at 174. It failed the entire next day, and now on day 3 after its earnings, it's spiking to the low 2s. Gotta love earnings winners. They have multiple day legs. I'll watch them all, but frankly, none of them are volatile enough for me when I see so many low float, low market cap spikers like DLT, SPU. So you got to be, honest with yourself. Like I want to buy earnings winners. I prefer stocks having a good catalyst like this, but they're just really not that great today and lately. So let's analyze PEX again. And we'll analyze, what's the other play? Why is this not changing? Am I really that bad with computers? ALIM, and let's reanalyze GRPN. That's all the useful ones. I'm going to reanalyze. That's what you got to get used to. We are scientists, and we are just analyzing, testing and testing and testing and testing. Hey, what's going on? I am so bad. I'm sure there's an easier way to do this, but I want you to see how bad I am. Zeros everywhere. Auto sum. There we go. Auto sum. Auto sum. All right. Pattern and price. PEIX is a multi-month breakout above 660, but as we saw, it failed to hold the spike, and this is very, very bad for a morning spiker, to be a failed morning spiker and just barely hold the breakout. So on pattern price, I mean, I would give this a 5. Risk reward, I mean, there's not much risk, but I don't think there's that much reward either. I'll give it a 7. Ease of entry and exit, I mean, I can get in and out easily, so that's a 10. Past performance history of spiking. Let's go to the charts. I mean, you have a nice 1 month uptrend, although it's pretty gradual. Again, you know, you had a spike here back in May, and then the next day, what did it do? Nothing. You know, it is a multi-month breakout, so it has one thing going for it, but it can't really spike that much. Look at how choppy it is. Everything is so measured. Not since like 2011 did it really spike and extend its gains. So past performance, I'll do this. Actually, I can't even give it a 6. I got to give it a 5. What time is it personal schedule? I mean, that would be for my morning spike. Everything that I'm analyzing right now, because the markets are closed, is for a morning spike. But given how bad its morning spike was today, I'm going to give this a 3. Reason catalyst, I mean, it's an earnings winner, but again, earnings winners aren't being valued very highly right now, so I'll give it a 7. Market environment, I mean, it's a good environment, but not necessarily for earnings winners. I'll give it a 7. And it's a 44. So I am really not that into it. ALIM, let's analyze that. Pretty cool how this thing is working out, huh? You've seen me do all the formulas live. I did not do any like test planning ahead of time. I don't have that kind of time. Here's ALIM. Whoa, terrible long-term chart. Absolutely horrendous. Let's go to 6 months. Has it spiked at all? I had 1 day of spiking, and then it failed. I mean, this is not a good, not good. So pattern and price, I mean, it's a good pattern. It's an earnings winner breakout. You know, I got to give it a 12. That's good. Risk reward, I mean, right now, what's the breakout level? You got to be specific. What was the initial breakout? Was it over here above 193? Let me go to 5 days, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's a breakout above 195, but it's not a very convincing breakout. I mean, it's up like 5-10 cents, and it also dipped. That's not a convincing breakout. Remember GRPN this morning? You know, risk reward, I don't know. If you're wrong, it's going to drop 10 cents. If you're right, it might like go up 20 cents. So I guess there's like 2-to-1 risk reward, maybe 3-to-1. I don't know. I'll give it an 8 for that on a scale of 20. Ease of entry and exit, you know, that's a 9. It's pretty easy to get in and out. Although volume has been fading. What is the volume on it? Oh, the volume, never mind. The volume's 6 million. I guess it got up there late day. I didn't see exactly how much. Past performance history of spiking, that's going to be a 3 because it just hasn't really done. Actually, I got to give it a 2. It hasn't done well at all. What time is it? Morning spike. Personal schedule. I got to give this a potential morning spike, but it's been tough to spike with earnings winners. Reason catalyst, I like earnings winners, but again, it's a 7 for that kind of market right now. Market environment for this, it's a 7. So yeah, I mean, it's a 60, but again, I really want to take trades 75, 80, 85, 90. I'm very happy with my DELT 85. So not really a surprise that PEIX and ALIM are not really tradable. Let's go to Groupon for a second, because Groupon is very interesting. So this was all over the place today. We had the early breakout and then a really bad dip, but it actually was a nice little bouncer, and then it tried to get back to 5 and failed. So dip buying earnings winners actually works pretty well. Sometimes they just spike and they keep spiking, so I'm either going to go for that initial spike, or in this case, the dip turned out to be better. Although, you would have had to wait all day to make a lousy 40 cents a share. That's a tough gig. The pattern in the price right now, because it's under 5, I can't give it that high scores. I'll give it a 14. If you can get back over 5, that's cool. Risk reward, that's the problem now, because there's going to be resistance here at 5 and at like 505. So you're 10, 15 cents a share away from really any kind of breakout. Because even if it goes up, I mean, it might go up 10 or 15 cents. And now support, is the low here at 450. So you have 25 cents a share of downside and 15 cents a share of upside. I mean, that's a poor risk-reward ratio. So I got to give that like a 4 at current prices. Ease of entry, I mean, that's easy to get in. But I'm going to actually dock it 1 just because it moves so slowly. Actually, I'm going to dock it 2. Even though I can get in and out too quickly, I can get out very easily, it's too easy. That's also bad. When these things trade, how many million shares did it trade? 65 million shares. Again, I got to dock it. Just like EVOK. I guess EVOK, I should have taken some points off. Let me go. I'm changing that. That's a 49. When it's too liquid like that, I don't like it. Past performance history of spiking, I mean, this is just terrible. It really can't spike that much. What did I do here? Auto sum. Oh my god, now I'm adding this. All right, that should be right. What time of day? Personal schedule. So it's for the morning spike tomorrow, but we've seen morning spikes fail on this one. I'll give it a 7. Reason catalyst, it's an earnings, so it's a 7, just like these other 2 earnings plays. Market environment is a 7 also. So yeah, it's a 49. So, the 3 earnings winners just aren't that amazing to me. Sorry, but now you see what I was saying. And I've done this so many times, I've internalized it. That's why I can type out my description before I actually plug it into the formulas. All right, we're getting through this list. Now on to the supernovas. SPU, OPTT, KONE, and what was the last one? Oh, TOPS are the ultra low float supernovas that I said in last night's watch list were potential buys on any uptrending volume. I nailed the morning breakout on SPU, sticking to my goal and making roughly 60 cents a share, leaving, how much should I leave on the table? SPU. So I was buying it right in here at 1060. And what did it get to? 12.70. So $2 a share. Well, I sold it actually at 11.20. So I left another $1.50 a share on the table, leaving roughly $1.50 a share on the table, which I don't mind because these stocks are scary. And when I was, put this in parentheses, and the first time I bought SPU in the 530s, I sold it at 6-ish. God, stupid autocorrect. Not fish, 6-ish. Now you see why I have so many typos. It's not my fault. OPTT also spiked. Did top spike? Oh, opened my E-Trade by accident. I had too many programs running. TOPS. TOPS was down 13% on the day. That's why it's not on my watch list. No spiking there whatsoever. KONE. I mean, I had a little attempted morning spike, but not much. OPTT still finished up on the day, but I think its morning spike failed. Yeah, it had its morning spike, and then it failed. See, also spiked in the morning, but it failed, while KONE and TOPS had hardly any heartbeats whatsoever. Same plan as yesterday, all our potential buys on any volume uptrending. Otherwise, they're dead to me. So, SPU, let's analyze it now, because that's really the only big percent winner. I'm not really even going to, I know I'm not interested in OPTT or KONE or TOPS because they didn't spike. I'm always interested in spikers that might have follow-up legs. So let's get rid of EVOK because I know I'm not going to trade something rated so lowly. SPU. Let's do SPU again. Isn't this fun? You get to learn the indicators and see how quickly this stuff changes. All right. SPU, pattern price. Well, we know it spiked, and the cool thing is that it actually held its spike. It closed at 12-ish, and the day high was, 1270. Again, if we go out a few days, I mean, it's fallen from the 20s. Get rid of this stuff so you can see. I mean, this is a classic number 5 pattern from my penny stocking framework DVD. But, and there's a big but, the mid-12s has been resistance going back to here and going back all the way to its initial breakout a week ago where it had the mid-12s as a resistance. And then when it broke the mid-12s, it uses the mid-12s as support before it goes to 20. So this 12 area is very, very important going back before it went supernova. And that's going to be tough to break out of. So let's see. Pattern price, I mean, it's a supernova. It's a first green day coming back. It is down off of its highs, but it's right at that resistance. I'm going to vote it a 12. Risk reward, it moves so fast. There's a lot of risk. You can't control your losses that easily. What if it spikes to the mid-12s and then bounces off resistance again, then all of a sudden it's down 50 or 75 cents? I'm going to give this a 4 for risk reward out of 20. Ease of entry and exit, I'm going to give this a 2 because it moves so quick. Past performance history of spiking, that's a 10 because it has spiked. Morning spike, personal schedule, I'm going to give this, this is when it's going to do it. Although today was a delayed morning spike, it did not spike big right at the open. So I'll give this a 17 out of 20. Reason Catalyst, I mean, it's a low float play, so it's in the right sector. So I'll give it a 10. Market environment is a 10 for this kind of a play. So it's a 65. It's probably, aside from DELT, this is probably my second best play, although I don't like trading such high price stocks. And I probably do feel a little guilt about selling too soon today. So I gotta, keep that in mind. I'm not going to be ashamed of it. We all make mistakes. But you do have to be aware of it, and you have to be honest with yourself. If you feel like a little guilty or emotional about a stock, that's going to influence how you trade it. So it's up there. It's better than the other plays, which were all like 44, 60, 49, but it's not exactly in my realm of 75, 80, 85, 90 that I really, really prefer. But I'll watch it. I'll definitely watch it to see if it can break those 12s. It might be very quick from like the mid 12s and spike to the 13s or 14s and then be a fake out. So you probably have to be quick on this one either way. It's either going to, spike quick successfully or fail quick. And that's tough for me as somebody who, alerts, and I want you guys learning in real time. Even by the time I send the alert, it might have already spiked another 50 or 75 cents a share. So that's not good. It gets all weird when I'm trying to, alert this potential buy setup, and then it's already hit my goals by the time you even get the alert. I can't control that. But I can be prepared for it. So I'll watch it. Let's see. I'll just say SPU is the only one that held its gains, so it's the best potential buy, but it also has serious resistance in the 12s, so I'm in no rush to buy just yet. All right, so we got through that group. I'm not even going to analyze the other ones because, frankly, they're just not, I know they're going to be like under 40 because they're just not volatile. Their pattern and price and risk reward are going to be terrible. But if they start moving, that could change. So now let's get to this big mess of plays. Ugh, there's so many of them. SPHS, MDGS. It's like just the gaggle. FATE, BLDP, XCOM and CDTI. XCOM and CDTI are all recent spikers, but none of them have perfect patterns or catalysts that I like. So while I'm watching them, I'm in no rush whatsoever to trade them. They need better news, better volume, better patterns before they get my hard-earned money. Let me explain what I mean. Here is SPHS. This one was going up, but then you have like kind of like this kiss of death, and it's been just treading water ever since. This is not, what I want to see. Okay. Well, this is fun. I'm doing this late at night. I'm getting entertained. When you get a big drop like this and it can't really bounce, that's not a good sign for buyers. That said, I'd be scared to short it because it's gone up so much, and shorting in this market is very, very scary. Shorting anything, and this still has an uptrend. I don't know what to do. It's mid-range, and that's it. MDGS, same kind of thing. MDGS was that big spiker. I tried to buy it at 2 right here, and it spiked too quickly. I missed it. I didn't want to chase it. Well, guess what? It was holding just above 2, but today, pre-market, it couldn't hold its gains, and it finished just under 2. And it looks like 2 is being used as resistance now. So there's absolutely nothing that I want to do with this as long as it's under resistance. And, it now has resistance at 2 and resistance here at like 210 and resistance here at 230. It's going to take news, volume, and I don't really ever want to buy a stock that's down 11%. That's going in the wrong direction. I know some of you guys think, oh, let's dip buy it. This is a good time. Again, I like big percent gainers. I don't like losers because they're frankly just not predictable, not as predictable. And I don't want to short it because, you could get another one of these spikes where it spikes $1 a share in 10 minutes. So the risk reward on shorting it is terrible. The next play, FATE. So same kind of thing, you had that spiking, and this was all today, and it just failed. I mean, it might be due for a little bounce, but even this spiking from like 2 to 230, I mean, it's so tough for this thing to go up, even 40 cents a share, let alone like $1 a share or anything. And it's because it has a terrible long-term chart. So I'm not going to buy it. It's not even up for me to want to short it. So there's no real play there. BLDP. And it's good to go over stocks that, you're watching, but you're not going to play. I know people just want hot plays, but it's good to understand why I don't want to play them. BLDP has been uptrending, but again, it's taken so much effort to go from 180 to the twos. And it won this big contract here, and it faded on day 2, and now it's kind of a breakout above, 2-ish. But the breakout is so weak. I mean, it couldn't even finish up today. It's just not volatile enough. So I'll watch it. Let me add it to this list. But, I'm not going to be all excited about a stock that's down, 3 cents a share on the day, even if it is uptrending. It's going to need more volume and a more decisive breakout. XCOM. Let's go to see that. So XCOM has been uptrending, but again, it kind of has not necessarily a terrible bad sushi chart, but like it's kind of questionable sushi, where it's been downtrending for so much, and now it's right at this resistance level of 2-ish. Even though it's up, I mean, it's going to be tough to break out of this downtrend. It's going to be nearly impossible, especially since it's been up for so long. And because it's been up so many days, and this is the first red day, it's actually a potential short. But again, in this market, I don't want to short, especially a dollar stock where, I might make 10 or 15 or 20 cents a share, maybe even 30 cents a share of downside. But if I'm wrong, I can lose $1 a share very quickly in this market. So I'm not really looking to short if I can help it. And I can help it. And last but certainly least is CDTI. I'm sorry, CDTI, but you're pathetic. It's been spiking, but now it looks like it's like this double top here in the high 3s. So you could say, oh, let's short it in the high 3s. And there was some nice volatility down, from the high 3s to the low 3s. But again, in this market, what if it breaks out? I don't want to be trying to short double tops. I don't want to be trying to predict double tops. It's up nicely, but last time it spiked, it faded, and this time it's spiking. It probably only spiked for a second day just because we're in a hot market. But now it's going red, and my guess is it's going to continue to fade like it did last time. So I don't want to short. I don't want to buy it. It's dead to me. So how many stocks do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This is a lot. 14, 15, 16, 17 stocks. So normally I have like 5 to 10 stocks, but the market is on fire right now. So let me send this. I want you to see exactly what I do when I send out this watch list. I copy and paste it just in case I've lost too many watch lists over time when I click submit and, there's something goes wrong with submitting it, and then I have to redo the whole thing again. My recent trades, so I did these 2 trades today. It's a watch list. It took me roughly an hour to do. That's about accurate. 17 stocks to watch. I like to tease 2 tickers. What are some of the biggest percent gainers? DELT and EVOK. DELT and EVOK. So I'm going to publish this. Let's see. So DELT, I am long DELT overnight from, 212, I think, was my entry, because it's the single biggest. It's a low float that reminds me of toss before it doubled on day 2 of its run up. I was long selling in the 250s. And at fish, not at fish, at 3-ish. An hour later, it went to the 4, so I underestimated. I highly doubt Delt will go full on supernova, but I'm in on the big intraday dip. I can always be a little more detailed, just above 2, and I would love to see it. Wow, I probably have a lot of typos. I don't usually go back. I'm usually passing out when I send this stuff. Or we even get close to that at all. Or even, I would love to see it test today's high or even get close to that at all. GBR is the best spiker after hours in EVOK, but volume is low. I'm watching all of them. They're all potential buys. I bought GRPN on the multi-month breakout at 5, only to be stopped dead in its tracks, and I was fortunate enough to get out roughly break even. PEIX this morning spiked to the mid-7s, absolutely failed. At least it's held on to its multi-month breakout of 660. It failed the next day. I watched them all. Yeah, let's see. These are the ultra-low float supernovas or potential buys. I nailed the morning breakout in SPUs, taking my goal, making roughly 60 cents a share, leaving some on the table, which I don't mind because these stocks are scary. And the first time I sold it at 6-ish for similar per share profits. Better percent profits down there, though. That's why I prefer low price stocks. OPT, but it failed, had hardly any heartbeats, whatever. Same plan as yesterday, all our potential buys. All right, let me save this one more time, and we are probably good to go. Let's post. Oh, it looks like it's going to post okay. Cool. So this is what I do. I post my watch list. I'm trying to prepare. And now, you can do the same. And, I encourage you to do this with each play overnight and do this with each play when you're thinking about risking your money. And it will get easier. Okay. I know that, trying to plan all these 7 indicators ahead of time before you trade in a fast moving market, you're going to be like, God, this is so annoying. But if you practice this, especially at night, it will get easier and you'll start to learn, how I value these trades. It's not as simple as one might suspect. There are a few indicators that go into it. The indicators can change, but by and large, these indicators protect me and, they help me choose the best trades. And that's, really the secret to my success. Choosing good trades, considering all of the variables, the history, the flow, the reason, the catalyst, the market, what time it is. Your own personal schedule does matter. I don't care what anybody says where they say, oh, you shouldn't talk about your personal schedule. Of course you should. You're the one doing the trade. Okay? Some of us are part-time traders. Some of us are full-time traders. You get to choose and you're in charge of your money. So never forget that. This is all about you. What works for one trader might not work for another trader who has a different schedule. This is the same thing with different patterns. Some of you guys like to short, some of you guys like to go long. I'm just trying to show the best setups that I think exist in the market. And I'm trying to take advantage of them and capitalize on them. And, that's all you can do day in, day out. Thank you.
My name is Tim Sykes, and I teach people to trade stocks. I am a self-made multimillionaire.
So this is the ideal trade that I'm going to talk about. I want you guys to understand every single aspect of this trade.